Welcome to the podcast of School Beyond Limitations. In this podcast, you will learn how to guide your child through their school life with the intention to help them find their unique essence that will allow your daughter, your son to live a fulfilled and meaningful life. Hello everyone, my name is Martina Jayne. I'm the co-founder, the designer of School Beyond Limitations, and today I would like to introduce another wonderful staff member to the community out there, and it's Jayne O'Keefe. Hi Jayne, welcome.
Hi Martina, thanks for having me.
And thanks for coming, because it's so valuable, Jayne, when we hear our staff members talk about their experience at School Beyond Limitations. But before we start that, I would like you to let us know a little bit about your background and about how it came about that you found out about School Beyond Limitations.
Okay, well, I've been teaching for over 17 years now. I always knew I wanted to teach. So from an early age, I went in that direction, and I studied at university a Bachelor of Education. So from 18, I was working in schools as part of my degree. And I qualified when I was 21, and I was working in the state system, in public schools in the UK, in London and inner city Manchester. And then I moved, after meeting my husband, who is Spanish, I moved out to Spain and worked within the international system. And that's when I felt like things were moving forward slightly in education, because I was working in schools which were using educational programs like the IPC and the IB programs, which were more transdisciplinary and intercultural, and I guess had more characteristics of the 21st century learning skills. However, I always felt that education needed to be so much more than that. And the longer I was in the system, the more aware I became of how many students were really struggling. Very bright, wonderful students who just did not fit the system and were feeling stressed, overwhelmed, and demotivated. And it was very hard to see that. And it got to the point where I really couldn't be a part of it any longer. And I left working in school as a classroom teacher, and I began working freelance, supporting students with differences, learning differences. I started to study my postgraduate studies in special educational needs, and I focused on social, emotional, and mental health needs and communication and language difficulties, and just started working as a one-to-one tutor and support teacher within the international school system, within schools, still working within schools, but working with more on a one-to-one basis with students, which was great for me because I could then really create relationships with students. But the problem was I was still in the system, and I was limited to how much I could do and how much flexibility there was to really support the students in the way I wanted to. And I had a conversation with a previous colleague of mine who had heard about SBL and was really interested in SBL. And after that conversation with my colleague, I went home, I Googled SBL, and I joined the open evening and heard a little bit about it. And I thought, wow, this can't be real. Is this real? And I joined the teacher training program immediately and just felt a sense of relief, that there was something out there. There was a system that could really support students in the way I wanted to. So I'm very grateful to be here with you now, Martina, and to be part of SBL.
And we are so grateful for having you, Jayne, because you bring so much expertise. But it's not only the expertise that you're bringing along, it's the way, you really interface with your students and with your colleagues. And you mentioned before, that you wanted education to be something completely different, right? So you thought there must be something more about education than what you experienced before. And then school beyond limitations came along. So what do you think does school beyond limitations do? And does that fit a little bit with your idea of the vastness of what education can be?
Yeah, 100%. So SBL and what I believe are very much aligned, because SBL is really about educating the whole student, the whole person, and it's way beyond the core academics. It's helping young people to understand the world not only around them, but the world with the world within, you know, really understanding themselves, their interests, and understanding their wants and their needs. So so really that is the main thing that drew me to SBL, that it was a holistic school. It wasn't just academics driven and focused core curriculum focused. It was also the holistic part of the student and well-being is also a major focus.
Is there any example, without making names, of course, Jayne, is there any example where you could actually just explain a little bit what this does with the student if you focus on the whole person instead of just, you know, kind of filling the vessel and going in that direction?
I think really to support a student in that way, you have to really get to know them. And this is the main difference for me. And what's so rewarding about working at SBL is that we can really build relationships with students. We have the mentoring program where we're spending one-on-one time with students. We really get to know them. They feel safe. They can open up. They know they're in a non-judgmental environment. They can speak, ask questions if they're unsure, and you can be vulnerable with the students, you know, as well, and you can be honest about your life experiences, and this helps students to feel safe and feel confident and comfortable to be open. And I think once you have that relationship and students feel safe and comfortable, then the learning can really happen. And it gives the students a chance then to find out what they really want to study, and what really motivates them, and why are they, you know, studying this topic, for example, and how is that relevant to their own lives and to the world around them. So yeah.
I think as I said before, I would not want you to use any names, you know, and mention any names. But one student comes into my mind when you are talking about this. You know, you also talked about, you know, giving space to the students so that they see what's within them. And I've seen a number of students in your settings, you know, because you are taking care of two classes that actually have, you know, come out from within themselves and have started to see the beauty that they bring to the table, and they start now also to, you know, to not only showcase their beauty but also to become leaders of their, you know, of the community. And I think it would be nice if you could share that a little bit with us, because as I mentioned, not without making names, but it's really extraordinary.
It is, and that's the beauty of SBL. It really is that students are celebrated for their differences, and it's not seen, you know, in the traditional system, it can be seen as a deficit, you know, certain differences not fitting the mold. And, you know, I often use the expression of trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. And in the traditional system, there's no flexibility. And here we really do value all those individual attributes that students bring to the table, and how, you know, their skills, whether it's technology, whether it's science-based, whether their skills really do add a lot of value to the whole group setting. And when they know that their skills are valued and their differences are valued, then they become more confident in their own skin and more happy to share and collaborate and work with others. And the creativity comes alive there. And yeah, that's what I love.
And Jayne, we are an online school, basically. I mean, we do also meet in person, and maybe you could also tell us afterwards what kind of experience after 1 year of being with us, this was for you of also meeting in person. But before we go into that, how would you describe the online learning modality of school beyond limitations? Because, there might be this constraint that people always say, it's just online, and the online can't replace offline, of course. And there is part of, that's partially true for sure. But how would you describe and explain the online reality of school beyond limitations, and how that maybe fits also into meeting in person?
So yeah, online works incredibly well with our inquiry-based curriculum, because it gives students, students are working with so many different educational tools that they have, they have a plethora of resources at their fingertips, so it's actually perfect. It's the perfect scenario for, in my opinion, for inquiry-based learning, which is what we are doing here at SBL, and students are given the independence during their time to go and work on their own inquiries. So they have the technology at their fingertips, and this is the great thing. And also having such a small group, so we only have 8 students in the Zoom room, it's a space where we can communicate. And I think that's what makes it really special, because, my postgraduate studies have really shown how the problem in our system at the moment, we have a huge problem with communication skills. And there isn't the time and the space when you have a group of 25, 30 students in a class for all of the students to be heard. And here at SBL, we're online, but we are together in a group in a very open and comfortable space where we are heard. Students have the time to really communicate their ideas with one another and have debates and have discussions about topics of interest. And although it's online, I think it's much more effective for 21st century skills and the way the future is going. I think our students are very well prepared for the professions that are coming their way in the future. And the residentials just really, they are the icing on top of the cake, because this is a time where we get to celebrate being in person, and it's much more meaningful than playtimes, because this is a whole week where we spend together 24 hours a day and doing activities which are exciting. The ones coming up were diving, hiking. We've been, on e-bikes. We've been looking around Milan city centre and, studying history together. And these are all memorable experiences which will take these students through into their adulthood. And I think it's beautiful.
Jayne, you are an experienced facilitator, and you've been used to work in, international schools beforehand, and you were used to go on school trips, of course, as well. What would you say is the difference between, the usual school trip and the residential week, as we call them, at School Beyond Limitations?
Oh, there's a whole world of difference. It's a really difficult question. Firstly, our locations are out of this world, really. They are, they are unbelievable. We were in the Dolomites, in the mountains, which was incredible. And these are places that maybe I wouldn't have had the experience of seeing. And the activities we do there are incredible. The e-biking in the Dolomites, and going to Malta and diving in such wonderful dive conditions in some of the best parts of Europe, and this is the difference. And also our residentials are theme-based. So there's a theme, it's educational, And we also have the time where we devote to connecting with one another, playing games together. And really, we really appreciate that time we have together and use it very wisely.
You just talked about relationships, and you used the word relationship also before in with regards to the students. What would you, or how would you define and describe the relationship between, you and your colleagues also, and, with among, the community of co-workers as well?
The relationships we have it's love is the word that springs to mind. Yeah, it's a community where we are like-minded professionals. We are all devoted to the profession. We all want to do what's best for the students in our care, and that means sharing resources, articles, research, really doing our best, and asking for help when we need to, and working as a team. We always have one co-teacher who we work closely with, and that person becomes a very close friend, because you work very closely with them throughout the year, and it's a very special relationship. And it's great to work with like-minded professionals who all share the same belief in education.
Beautiful, Jayne. And if you looked back now at this nearly ending school year, we have just this week and then next residential week, which is incredible. I can't believe it. But if you look back, have there been highlights that you would like to kind of share here, or?
Every day there are highlights. I mean, every day I go away smiling. I mean, I've just had a mentoring session with a student now, and I told her I was coming to meet with you. And I said, oh, I'm a little bit nervous. And she said at the end of mentoring, I believe in you. You will do so well. I'm sending you lots of confidence. And I thought, how lovely, and I go away from every day there's a highlight. There's a highlight. I really love the hackathon weeks we have, where students get the opportunity to lead. And that's always very exciting, because it shows it's flipped. The classroom is flipped and the student is leading. And every day is different. So, one day I can be mentoring with a student who is fascinated with science and rockets and astrophysics. And then I'm in another mentoring session the next hour with a student who's passionate about Southeast Asia, and they're teaching me things, we're learning together. And I think that's wonderful. So many highlights. It would be very difficult to tell you all of them now, because there are highlights every day with this job.
And Jayne, thank you for actually pointing that out, that we actually reverse also the situation, that we are all learners in a way, and all teachers in a way, right? So it's a collaborative kind of growth that is taking place on a regular basis. That's beautiful. Jayne, school beyond limitations. Yeah, so let's shortly come to an end. And I think we could talk about school beyond limitations for ages. But school beyond limitations, what does it mean to you in a few words that you would choose?
Okay, that's just a few words. Okay, so relationships, flexibility, individualism, progressivism, constructivism, student-centered, love, honesty, openness, authenticity. I think I could go on, Martina. What's the limit?
This is amazing, Jayne. I mean, let's get back to what you said at the beginning, and we touched upon that, where you said education is so much more, right? And you mentioned, oh, I found it within school beyond limitations. Is that what you still think? You found it within school beyond limitations?
100%, yes, I have found it, and I'm so grateful, Martina, to you for creating this school, and I'm so grateful to be here.
Well, and Jayne, we are grateful for having you. As I said already at the beginning, it's amazing. And thank you for joining us for this short conversation, because the more people hear about it, the better it is, I think, because it's not just, something that's a written word, it's something that's put into practice. So thank you for joining us, Jayne.
Thank you.
And if you are interested for your daughter, for your son, and you think that School Beyond Limitations sounds like the perfect place for you, then please get in touch with us. We have a website and you may apply there and we will communicate with you then. Thank you again, Jayne. All the best. And
Thank you.
meet soon, yeah?
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. At School Beyond Limitations, we support our students find their unique essence. Feel free to share the content of this podcast with other parents. We are here to show that your children can, indeed, bring their unique essence into life. So, reach out to us if you think that this is what you'd like your daughter, your son to experience, or apply through our website. Also, leave your comments, your questions, or your review about the podcast. Share it with others. And as you know, sharing is caring.